Jim Carrey was trying to expose the secrets of the government and the Illuminati, but we weren't listening to him? You need to see this. So Jim Carrey went on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show several years ago to promote a movie, and during his entrance, he just kept flashing the symbol of the Illuminati to everyone. He didn't even let Jimmy ask one question about his movie. He spent his whole time trying to wake people up and just expose and talk about the government.
Today we're looking at TikToks that will haunt your dreams.
This is horrific. A whale has just died after it collided with a boat's motor in New Jersey. Now, the incident caused one person to fall overboard and nearly capsized the entire vessel. But even though the person wasn't injured, unfortunately the same cannot be said for the whale, because not long after it washed ashore and succumbed to its injuries.
Thank you to all the channel members for support. If you guys like this video, remember to like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. Let's just hop into the video. Let's go.
Scariest Things Police Have Seen, Part 46. This was sent to me by a nephew of a trucker who had an encounter with a police officer. This trucker was driving on Highway 152 in California. He got pulled over by a highway patrol officer. It was odd though, because the police vehicle looked like an older 80s model unit. The officer gave him a ticket and left. Later on, the trucker went to the courthouse to fight the ticket. The judge looked at the ticket, got up and asked, "Do you think this is a joke?" The trucker said, "Why?" The judge told him that the officer's name and ID number used on the ticket belonged to an officer that had died on that freeway almost 40 years earlier.
Creepy videos that you shouldn't watch at night, but you're going to anyway, part 10. I just held up 5, what the fuck. And for my dark web lovers, you will love this video because this one actually surfaced on the dark web. Also, I might be going on a TV show. I got contacted by a company to make a TV show on Discovery Channel pretty much about dark web and creepy videos, so thank you guys. So make sure to show some love so we can get him to see it. I just knocked my lights out. Alright, the video has since been deleted, but people actually downloaded it, so I'm just on YouTube. So this is in binary code. If anybody wants to decode that, please let me know. This video is pretty scary, so let's watch. What the fuck? Oh, hell no. Here's the full binary code, so just save the video. So if you guys need help sleeping at night, click the link in my bio. And once you click the link, click on Get a Peaceful Sleep, and it's an app, download it, and you will get the most peaceful sleep of your life.
Because whenever an inventor creates something that they think will bring great value to the world, they do something called file a patent, which is a system that offers inventors a temporary monopoly on their invention in exchange for sharing it with the world. In theory, a very mutually beneficial agreement. Society gains an invention that advances us, and the inventor makes a lot of money and gains recognition. The idea of patents was created in 1474 in Venice to encourage innovation when they enacted the Venetian Patent Statute. But in 1951, the US passed the Invention Secrecy Act, allowing them to keep certain technologies and inventions a secret legally. If they determine an invention to be detrimental to society, they can classify it, and their inventors are bound by law to not talk about it. Now, if a big company can't lobby a reason to invoke this act on a patent that happens to be detrimental to their wallet, they can simply offer the inventor a lot of money to outright buy the rights to their technology patent and just never put it to use. This practice is known as black shelving, buying patents for the purpose of never putting them to use. And if inventors refuse that, there are other ways to make sure their technology never gets out there, as there are countless cases of this happening, especially when it comes to anything involving cheap, accessible energy. Like the time this guy, Stanley Meyer, invented a car that can run purely on water. And it was all over the news, using a process known as electrolysis, which used electricity to split water molecules, H2O, into oxygen and hydrogen gas, using the hydrogen gas to power the engine, which we know is real. We have hydrogen cars today, although they don't run on water, but rather hydrogen gas pumped directly into the engine, which is expensive and not very accessible. Meyer called his invention a water fuel cell injector, and it was so impressive that scientists and engineers around the country inspected it and confirmed his technology works. In 1998, Stanley was signing a multi-million-dollar deal with investors at a restaurant when all of a sudden he felt incredibly sick, ran into the street, and started throwing up. He died shortly after, with his final words being, "They poisoned me," but his death certificate hid that, and they made up a story about a brain aneurysm. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to notice that this is a very inconvenient pattern among inventors of this type of technology, because Stanley was quite the inventor, one of which included an electromagnetic toroid-shaped device that was hit with a national security order, a torus that emits a toroidal energy field, essentially an energy donut, or a rodent coil, another controversial topic of many online free energy theories. A device that harnesses harnesses the unique properties of toroidal fields to create energy through a system called vortex-based mathematics, a 9-digit pattern that's also the foundation of that whole 369 thing that Nikola Tesla claimed to hold the key to understanding the universe, that appears to create energy in a closed system with near 100% efficiency, breaking the first 2 laws of thermodynamics, the thought of which makes physicists cry who insist it's physically impossible. But this concept was replicated in tests like mathematicians Marco Rodin's Rodin coil and Victor Schoberger's vortex machine. Even NASA briefly experimented with an engine called the M-Drive, which used similar principles to produce energy and was quickly deemed pseudoscience and shut down. Now, Stanley Meyer's device didn't run on gas, electricity, or even water. It ran on nothing. Exactly where we find those quantum vacuum fluctuations, zero-point energy. Drawing energy from this zero-point field, Nikola Tesla and other scientists of our past called this field the ether, a layer beyond our dimension that we can't exactly see but can still interact with, exactly what quantum mechanics is slowly beginning to prove. Ether was even officially listed as a 5th element in our education systems for centuries, and is also how the rumored Tartarian Empire, the Egyptians, Atlantis, and other advanced ancient cultures of our past are said to have drawn energy from the sky by extracting it from the ether that exists all around us, the zero-point energy field. But by the 1920s, scientists were forced to reject the notion of ether, conforming to the regular 4 elements as we know today. As we know, Tesla himself even tried experimenting with and bringing this technology into the modern world, but was also silenced from doing so. Let's hope I'm not next on their hit list.
I feel like it's well known that once you discover something, mostly if something that goes against like the big corporation, yeah, it's wraps, you're done.
This is the creepiest account on all of TikTok. So basically this account posts a lot of weird stuff, and in their newest videos they claim to have brought a banana to life. And this banana that's been brought to life even throws up. Now, I don't know about you, but that does not look like throw up to me. Now, since seeing this alive banana, a lot of people think that this is real. Now, I'm like 80% sure that this banana is not actually alive. Like, here's something else that the banana account has posted, and they have a bunch of other really weird stuff like this on their account. Because of that, I'm gonna say they have some kind of string or something attached to this banana to make it move. But what do you guys think?
Jim Carrey was trying to expose the secrets of the government and the Illuminati, but we weren't listening to him? You need to see this. So Jim Carrey went on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show several years ago to promote a movie, and during his entrance, he just kept flashing the symbol of the Illuminati to everyone. He didn't even let Jimmy ask one question about his movie. He spent his whole time trying to wake people up and just expose and talk about the government. The producers had no idea he was gonna do this.
Have you, like you don't know what it is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on.
The producers had no clue he was gonna do that, and it sounded like people were laughing during the interview, but everyone who went to the live taping exposed that no one was laughing. It was completely silent, and they just edited laugh tracks over it, which makes it so much creepier. People are worried for his health and safety now after putting himself on the line like this, and the weird fact that he's had less jobs recently and now he's suddenly choosing to retire.
Well, I'm retiring, and this is something you might never hear another celebrity say. I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
I'm gonna show you one last crazy clip of what he said, but before I do, make sure you follow so you find and know the craziest conspiracy theories about each of these celebrities and requests you want to see next.
You know what they're trying to do? They're trying to turn us into, consumer drones of some sort. Hold on, I just got to get this. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I was temporarily interrupted by my iPhone 6 Plus.
I mean, if I'm being honest, he is a comedian, so maybe he's just trying to joke with it. I mean, I don't know, but if he really was going after the Illuminati and the higher-ups like that, he's very brave because they will probably come for his soul.
Don't watch this at night, you've been warned. So the person that posted this said that they were recording themselves reading a book when this happened. Basically, this person or thing walked into frame from behind the house. Now watch the way that it walks. A lot of people think that it doesn't walk like a regular human. Now everybody has a lot of different theories in the comments. They're saying things like something looks very wrong with the arms. They're also pointing out other creepy things about the video, like a shadow moving inside the front door, and what appears to be someone peeking through the window. What do y'all think of this?
Here are the spookiest things in space, and they just get scarier. There are giant voids in space which contain far fewer galaxies than there should be, and hypothetically these voids can combine and get bigger and bigger. These voids are the emptiest of the emptiness of space. It's the loneliest place in the universe. Nothing can survive on Venus. It's too hostile. The longest any spacecraft has ever survived is only 2 hours. There are many hypotheses about potential life on Venus or in its atmosphere, but it doesn't let us close enough to study it. This NASA graphic shows the orbits of all of the potentially hazardous asteroids. These aren't even just the asteroids we know about. These are only the potentially bad ones. There are black holes wandering around space. They're so stealthy that they're nearly impossible to detect. Our galaxy alone is estimated to have about 12 free-floating black holes. The most powerful explosions in space happen suddenly, and if one was close enough to harm us, we wouldn't know until it reached Earth. Gamma-ray bursts are thought to have caused mass extinctions on Earth in the past. Oumuamua is the first interstellar object to pass through our solar system, and it was observed speeding up, not as the result of gravity, which could be a few things, but some astronomers are convinced it's an alien craft. Earth receives mysterious radio signals that happen in repetitive patterns. For example, we received one that happened every 18 minutes and 18 seconds for 3 months and then suddenly stopped. Astronomers estimate that fast radio bursts put out as much energy in a millisecond as the sun puts out in 3 days, and astronomers aren't sure what the cause is. Something in the middle of our region of space is drawing all nearby galaxies in, including us. Observations suggest that this is something with a mass millions of times that of the Milky Way, but we can't see it because our galaxy blocks our view.
Lady in the middle of the night gets a doorbell. Now lucky for her, she has one of those Ring cameras. When she checks her Ring camera, she sees the shadow of a person walking off in the distance. But what she also sees is this white envelope on the ground. Her being really curious, not really thinking too much, she gets up out of bed, she goes downstairs, she makes sure the person is not outside waiting for her by the door. She opens the door, she grabs the envelope, closes the door, and she looks at it. When she opened it, it said, "I need you to send me a picture in the mirror with nothing on. If you don't have a printer, go to the library, put the photos back in this envelope, and leave it on your porch, and I'll collect it. Thank you." Now anybody in their right mind would not do it, so she didn't. Then the next night comes, the doorbell rings again. She checks the Ring camera, she sees this person walking off again, she sees an envelope on the floor. The same thing, repeat. She gets the envelope. This time the message said, "I told you to take a picture with nothing on and send me the pictures inside of the envelope. You have been warned," written at the bottom. Now around this time, she gets really terrified. Really terrified. She calls the police. Police get to the place and they tell her, "So when he comes up to your doorbell and rings the door, you don't see his face?" She said, "Well, yeah, I can see his face if I rewind the footage and I actually check when he approaches my doorbell, but for some reason I never did yet. I just caught him walking off when he rung my doorbell on the Ring camera live." So she decides to go on her footage from her Ring doorbell camera. And she can see this man with this creepy smile after he rung the doorbell. It was so crazy because he don't have on the mask or anything. His face is blatantly in front of the camera and he knows it. He knows that this camera is looking at him, but he don't care. Police tell her, "All right, ma'am, we'll be on the lookout for him. The minute you hear the doorbell ring, you call us." She says, "Okay." Mind you, this is about to be night 3 and she's not doing the envelope with the photos. Of course she's not. So this is gonna piss that creep off. Night 3 happens. This time the doorbell rings and it rings because it's really late. 2 a.m. this time. Last time it was ringing around 10 p.m., 11 p.m. This time 2 a.m. She calls the police immediately, but then she hears her back door open. It was one of them doors, every time you open it, it goes dun dun, side door open or back door open or front door open. Side door. I hate them so much, but it helped her in this situation because the door late at night said dun dun, back door open. Now she was wondering why the hell was her back door open. Then she remembered she was doing her garden during the day. She forgot to lock the back door. So at this moment she knows that the creep is coming. She locks her room door. She's on the phone with the police. She says, "Yes, this creep is in my house. I think he's trying to do something to me, like murder me, kidnap me, something. Can you please hurry up and come to this address?" Police said, "Yes, ma'am. Stay on the line with me. We're on the way." Now she can hear this person with big boots coming up the steps. So she tells the cop, "Please hurry up. He's coming up the steps." He goes close to the door. Of course, he twists the doorknob. It's locked. He knocks. He knocks and he knocks. And she don't say a word. Now, she don't have a weapon. She don't have nothing. She just have to wait and hope the police make it in time. But this person don't knock anymore. This person actually walks away. Walks from the door because she can hear them big boots walk back downstairs. Police get there. They search the home and he's gone. Now, this creep ended up disappearing for weeks. Didn't show up at her house. She felt like her calling the police scared him away. But it did the opposite. Because that's what he wanted. He wanted her to get comfortable. He wanted her to almost forget about everything, feel relief, which she did. And then there was this final night that then changed everything.
What's something that happened to you as a kid but nobody believes? My imaginary friends were way too realistic, and I was so obsessed with them, I just know they were the spirits of children who passed. Many people said breathing underwater. They experienced breathing underwater. This comment says, my sister and I swear on the Bible that we could legit do it when we were young. We also had the exact same dream one night when we shared a room. I remember flying over a tree, too. I breathed underwater, I swear to God. I watched my stomach go up and down with each breath. I don't know what it was, but I used to be absolutely terrified of one specific corner of the ceiling in my room. Used to look up at it all the time, felt like there was something there. I saw shadowy figures every night, seeing the Hat Man almost every night. I saw a spider walk out of my room in a top hat with a briefcase. Shadow people are evolving. Floating down the stairs, like just take the first step and float to the bottom, always happened when no one was watching. Another person who swears they floated down the stairs, also, why were we all on the stairs? I used to see 3 blurry figures walk out of my wardrobe around my room and disappear back in there every night for years. It bothered me so much that I had therapy as a kid for it. You guys are loving these comment videos, so should I read more?
Being able to breathe underwater? That is crazy. If they were able to breathe underwater back then, why couldn't they breathe underwater right now? You know what I'm saying?
I was just reading a study by Princeton neuroscientists, and they figured out that the brain is a sender and receiver of low electromagnetic wave frequency, and that these frequencies that the brain sends and picks up connects everybody on this neural network, basically collective consciousness, and that the thoughts that you send out can interact with people up to 10,000 kilometers away. Really, it's infinite, so every thought that you've ever had is out there able to be decoded. So if you think about it like this, you have 2 people. One person's in the middle of the water, one person's on shore. This person jumps into the water, and it creates an interference pattern or a wave pattern that will go to the opposite side of the water. So the person that's in the middle will be interacted with by that interference pattern, whether they're aware of it or not. And that's exactly how it works with your thoughts. You send out a thought and it goes out as a wave pattern, and it can interact with other people as it goes out if they match the frequency of the thought. So thoughts that you have, the things that pop up in your brain, might not even be your own thoughts. It might be you matching the frequency of someone else's thoughts, and then your brain's picking it up. Isn't that trippy?
That actually is super trippy. That's kind of like a ripple effect. Like, you know, when you jump in water, then the ripples just go all the way out to like the other side of the pool, lake, or whatever you're in. It's pretty much the same thing he's saying with thoughts. It's actually insane.
Rare interstellar object the size of Manhattan could be an alien probe, according to Harvard scientists. Sorry, is an alien probe heading towards Earth? This is an interstellar object. It came from outside of the solar system and then traveled here, and it is the largest and fastest interstellar object we've ever seen. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb suggested in a new paper that the object could be an intelligently directed alien craft observing Earth with a possibly hostile intentions. Let's check it out. Here's the paper, which is essentially a giant thought experiment saying, what if this was aliens? What would we see? What would happen? In fact, if we scroll to the conclusions, it says this. We strongly emphasize that this paper is largely an exercise with interesting discoveries and strange serendipities worthy of a record in the scientific literature. By far, the most likely outcome will be that 3I Atlas is a completely natural interstellar object, probably a comet, and the authors await the astronomical data to support this likely origin. And then they say, but we should think outside the box when we see things like this and consider aliens. And that is because the author of this paper is Avi Loeb, that Harvard astrophysicist, and for those of you who don't know, he is an alien optimist. He likes to approach space mysteries with aliens in mind, which is fine. We need to look at things from all angles. He's the same person who said that aliens might use a mothership in our solar system, which went viral, and that interstellar object Oumuamua could be aliens, which was largely disproven. He also thought another interstellar object landed in our ocean and actually went out with a boat and collected pieces of it, and it wasn't aliens. So no, this object is not aliens. It is a very, very cool object that came from outside of the solar system, but it's not coming near Earth, it's not dangerous, and it's not aliens. And if you want a scientific video of it, it is pinned on my page.
I feel like she did a very good explanation on what that could be, because a lot of people are like, oh my god, there's aliens coming here and they're gonna wipe out all of America. It's gonna be insane. Like a lot of fear mongering, but I feel like she kept it realistic and was like, it's probably not aliens, it's probably just like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
This woman was stuck to a couch for 6 years. In 2004, emergency responders arrived at Gail Grind's home after her health took a critical turn. What they discovered inside was something that haunted them for years. Gail, who was 40 years old, had spent the last 6 years of her life sitting, unmoving, on the same couch. She had become so severely obese that her skin had fused to the fabric. Layers of flesh, waste, sweat, and decay had molded with the cushion, creating a grotesque bond that no one could easily break. The air in the house was thick, suffocating, filled with the stench of filth, rot, and years of neglect. The floor was also littered with garbage. She had become physically unable to move, even to use the bathroom, and everything happened right there on that couch. When doctors tried to save her, they spent over 6 desperate hours attempting to separate her from the furniture without tearing her apart. Her body had literally grown around the couch, tissue fused with cushion. It was a medical horror unlike anything they'd seen. Surgeons worked until their hands shook, but it was too late. Gail died during their effort to save her.
Times actors weren't acting. The Blair Witch Project. When the Blair Witch Project came out in 1999, people genuinely thought it was real. The footage felt too raw, too chaotic, and too believable. And that's because it kind of was. What most people don't know is that the actors weren't given a real script. Instead, they were thrown into the woods with handheld cameras and told to react to whatever happened, without any clue how the story would unfold. Each morning, the filmmakers would leave notes for the actors in hidden film canisters. These notes had basic instructions like, don't trust the others today, or refuse to keep walking. The actors had no idea what the other cast members were told, which led to real arguments and tension. Most of what you hear in the movie is completely improvised. The goal was simple, make the fear feel real, and it worked. They were isolated in the middle of the woods for 8 straight days. At night, the directors would sneak into their camp to mess with them. They'd shake their tents, snap branches, leave creepy stick figures outside, or blast unsettling sounds from hidden speakers. The actors had no idea when or if something was going to happen. They weren't just scared in character, they were actually scared. To make things worse, the crew started rationing their food. Each day, the actors were given less to eat, which made them irritable, disoriented, and emotionally drained. All of that added to the raw, unstable energy of the movie. And then, there's that infamous final scene. Mike standing silently in the corner of the basement while Heather screams off camera. She didn't even know what she was going to find until the moment it happened. The Blair Witch Project blurred the line between horror and reality in a way that no movie had done before. And maybe that's why it stuck with people, because deep down, you can feel it. It doesn't feel like a performance. It feels like something that was never supposed to be seen.
If the directors went that intensely for me, I would forget to record. I wouldn't even record. I'd be like, yeah, nah, dude. I think the last thing we should be worried about right now is recording.
This man was the most dangerous in the world. In 1963, in New York City, a man named Jerry Dunk ran a small hot dog stand on Main Street. But his hot dogs weren't just snacks. They were a sensation. People said they were the best they'd ever tasted. No one knew what made them so good. Jerry's secret recipe was a closely guarded mystery. Families lined up around his stand. Jerry always greeted them with a warm smile and a friendly attitude. He'd chat with the dads, talk about sports, or fishing. Many of the fathers said, "I'm just going back to Jerry's for another hot dog," and left with a smile. But they never came home. Police started an investigation. At first, Jerry was all smiles, playful, helpful, saying, "I'm just a guy with a grill." But as more men went missing, the police searched his house. What they found was horrifying. In Jerry's basement, hidden behind a locked steel door, there was a full-size basketball court. But that wasn't the scary part. At the other end of the room stood a massive industrial incinerator, its walls blackened with soot. Next to it, piles of men's clothing. When the police found him in his secret hideout, Jerry just smiled and said, "First rule of the game, you gotta win." When they asked where the missing men were, he pointed to the incinerator and whispered, "I'm the king of Dunk." Then he ran straight toward the flames, and now you can probably guess how he kept his hot dogs hot.
In 2004, a family found something on the side of the road they thought was a dog. It wasn't. It looked like a greyhound, thin, silent, too still. They brought it home, named it Max. But Max never barked, never blinked, never slept. At night, he just sat in the hallway, watching. One night, the father got up for water and saw Max standing. But not like a dog. He was standing on 2 legs, taller than the doorframe, and he was smiling. The family left that morning and never went back. But when the realtor arrived days later, the front door was open, and something was sitting in the hallway, waiting.
Does anyone else remember the terrifying story of Carmen Winstead? Carmen Winstead was just a teenage girl that was trying to make friends at her new school. Her dad had recently lost his job, so he and Carmen relocated to Indiana so that he could find a new place of work. This was difficult for Carmen, as it would be for most 17-year-olds, and as a result, she found her first year at this new school to be pretty challenging. But then, she was befriended by a group of 5 other girls in her class. They all appeared pretty nice, but Carmen would soon discover that these girls had been gossiping about her behind her back and spreading rumors about her. One of these rumors that this group of girls had started was that Carmen was sleeping with the school's janitor. This ultimately damaged her reputation at school, so now she not only lost these 5 girls that she thought were her friends, but also any other chance to make new friends. Carmen summoned up the strength to confront the girls that were fabricating these horrible lies about her, but this just led to even more bullying. In response to Carmen's attempt to stand up for herself, the girls started calling her names, and they even broke into her locker and ruined her personal items. Carmen was really hurt by this and didn't know what else to do, so one day she stayed after class and told her teacher about the relentless bullying she had been experiencing. The next day after lunch, there was a fire drill scheduled. As the students gathered outside and the teachers began doing roll call, Carmen was seen by a sewer opening with the 5 girls that had been tormenting her. The girls thought it would be funny and embarrassing to Carmen if they pushed her down the sewer drain in front of the entire class. So they circled around her and pushed her into the opening of the sewer. As Carmen fell into the sewer opening, one of the girls shouted, "She's in the sewer," in an attempt to get attention and embarrass Carmen. The teacher rushed over to the opening, and when they looked inside, they saw Carmen standing still with her head turned to one side. The police were called, and when they arrived, they saw that Carmen's face had been completely torn off during the fall, and her neck had been broken. Everyone involved was questioned, and the 5 girls claimed that Carmen had just fallen into the opening all on her own. Because of this, the case was closed and classified as an accident. A few months later, strange posts from an unidentified person started appearing on the MySpace profiles of all of the students that went to Carmen's school. The posts were saying that Carmen's death had not been an accident. Those responsible for Carmen's death were given a window of opportunity to confess to authorities or face dire consequences, and these 5 girls never turned themselves in. Instead, each one of them were found dead, one by one, after they refused to accept responsibility for their actions. Carmen's spirit continued to haunt the internet by sending chain mail that stated that if the receiver didn't spread the word about the horrible things those 5 girls did to her, they too would suffer the same fate. Whoever didn't forward the email or repost her message would begin to hear laughter coming from their sink, the shower drain, or the toilet. They would go to sleep that night only to wake up in a sewer, terrified and completely paralyzed. Then, as they screamed in horror, Carmen would come and tear their face off, just like what had happened to her.
There's a road that is so haunted, people have actually abandoned their cars in the middle of the night and taken off running on foot just to get away from whatever it was they saw. And I know what you're thinking, why would anyone get out of their car on a dark, empty road in the middle of the night, especially when locals will tell you that if you're driving on this road after dark, whatever you do, don't stop. But once I tell you Julia's story and what happened to her, I think it'll start to make a little bit more sense. So Julia had been visiting her dad at this new care facility he had just been moved into, and although it wasn't late, it was December, so it was already getting dark by the time she was getting ready to leave. And as she's walking out into the main lobby, this nurse that's sitting at the front desk casually mentions that there's some construction on the highway, and if she wants to save a little bit of time, there's actually this old back road Julia can take instead. And you know, Julia just politely nods her head, and as she is about to walk out the front door, the nurse quietly says, underneath her breath, "Just don't miss the turn." And Julia turns around, she's like, "Wait, what did you say?" And the nurse is like, "Oh, nothing, just don't miss the turn, don't want you getting lost." And she just kind of laughs under her breath a little bit like it's some kind of joke, which was weird for sure, but Julia just thanked her and walked out the door, and I'm sure you can already guess where this is going because, yeah, she missed the turn. And the crazy thing is, she wasn't even that far off. If she had just driven a little bit further, maybe like 100 feet, she would have seen the right road, but it was getting dark, she was already feeling a little bit turned around, and instead of backtracking the way she came, she just figured the road would eventually loop back around. But that's when things started to get strange, and what happened next is burned into Julia's mind. It is something she will never forget. Julia had only been driving for about about 5 minutes when she heard and felt this sickening thump against the front of her car. She knew that this could only mean one thing. Her heart instantly started pounding, and without a second thought, she pulled over to check it out because the thought of hitting an animal or a person flashed through her mind and just made her absolutely sick to her stomach. But she barely had the car in park when suddenly a hand slammed against her window, dragging down the glass and leaving behind a gruesome trail of smeared blood. She flinched and closed her eyes for just a second. When she finally worked up the courage to open them again, the hand was gone, but this ugly red streak on her window was still there. Still running on pure adrenaline at this point, she pushed open her car door and slowly stepped out to take a look, but the only light came from her headlights and there was nothing in the road, nothing in front of her car and nothing behind it. So she went around to the back of her car and started to walk a little bit further down the road towards the direction she had just come from, but she saw nothing. She turned to head back to her car, but the moment she spun around, her heart dropped because her car was gone. The road in front of her was completely empty, not a single sign of her vehicle. And before she could even begin to process what was going on, she whipped her head back around, hoping against all odds that maybe she just got disoriented, that her car was actually the other way. But instead of her car, standing there in the middle of this desolate road was a girl. Julia called out to the girl. She was asking if she was okay, if she was hurt, or how could she help. But the closer Julia got, the more this uneasy feeling started to build in her stomach. Something about the girl was off. She looked like a girl, sure, but there was something about her that wasn't quite right. Maybe it was how her arms seemed a little too long for her body, or the way her lips curled into this smile that didn't quite meet the expression in her eyes. It looked human for only a moment before Julia's eyes adjusted and her brain screamed that deep down, whatever this thing was, it wasn't a little girl and it definitely wasn't human. She knew that if she didn't get away, something really bad was going to happen, so without another thought, she took off running down the road in the opposite direction. Julia ran as fast as her legs would carry her, literally running for her life until she reached the edge of this field that lined the isolated road. But as she ran down the side of the ditch, her foot caught on something, sending her tumbling the rest of the way down. Her head hit the ground hard and everything went black. The next thing she knew, she was waking up in the hospital surrounded by nurses who explained that she had been found unconscious in a ditch just a few feet from her car, which according to them was found sitting in the middle of the road with the driver's side door hanging wide open. But when Julia asked them about the girl, about the blood, and about the accident, they just looked at her completely confused and explained that there was no girl, no blood, and definitely no sign of an accident. Her car didn't even have a scratch on it. But here's the thing that still messes with Julia to this day. The one detail she absolutely cannot get out of her head. When she was finally released from the hospital and went to pick up her car from impound, she walked around to the driver's side and there it was, just this faint dusty handprint on the window. It wasn't bloody, but it was there and it matched exactly what she saw that night. Julia still has no idea what she saw or experienced out there on that road, and when she went back to the care facility a few months later to visit her dad and also ask that nurse what the heck was up with that road, the staff told her that no nurse matching that description had ever worked there. If you have made it to the end of this video and you haven't had a chance to check the caption, this is a fictional scary story, which means it was entirely made up and didn't actually happen.
Bro, the Grand Canyon is on fire. In fact, it's been on fire for almost a month. And it's not even like it's small. Over 1,000 firefighters have been struggling to contain two fires, one called White Sage, we'll get to that, and the other called Dragon Bravo, which are on and around the North Rim. So far, they've burnt the equivalent of 113,000 football fields, destroyed close to 100 structures, including homes of park officials, a visitor center, a gas station, a water plant, and even the historic Grand Canyon Lodge. And the reason you may or may not have seen people freaking out about this on TikTok is because White Sage is a sacred medicinal plant, often burnt by Native American tribes for cleansing and purification. Lord knows we need some of that right now. And authorities currently believe that both fires were started by lightning, believe it or not. Oh, they really don't want us to see August. The White Sage fire is currently 83% contained, while Dragon Bravo, on the other hand, is only 4% contained. And recent reports say that it tripled in size in just 3 days. See you in August. This is horrific. A whale has just died after it collided with a boat's motor in New Jersey. Now, the incident caused one person to fall overboard and nearly capsized the entire vessel. But even though the person wasn't injured, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the whale, because not long after, it washed ashore and succumbed to its injuries. But the big question that people are asking now is, why didn't they turn the motor off if they knew that a whale was near? Well, the answer is apparently they didn't. Reports say that this happened in a super shallow area of water, which whales don't commonly go through. So as of right now, it's just being treated as a freak accident.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe.